Okay, let's get to it. It's going to be the Source Material Comics podcast coming back at you. This time, we're going to be talking the Kaiju Score. So this was written by James Patrick, art by Rem Brew, and lettered by Dave Sharp. Cover date, November of 2020. I think this is a 4-issue series. And joining me tonight to talk about the Kaiju Score, it is one Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, you ready to talk some Kaiju Score, sir?
I am. I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting to talk about this book for a long time.
Yeah, this was another one of those ones you picked up and you were like, hey, which ones look good? This one stood out to me because I'd heard about it for a little while prior to you even picking it up. And I was really surprised to see it in the...
It was like in the pile that I sent you.
James Patrick is a writer that actually lives just across the river in West Virginia.
In a van down by the river.
I think he lives in, I'm pretty sure it's a nice house. Fairly certain.
Okay.
I'd seen James at conventions around here for, quite a while. He had wrote a couple very famous comics for DC. He did a independent book called Death Comes to Dillinger. Kaiju Score started getting some real press. Like, a lot of people were talking about it. And then I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's been optioned for a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
by the way, this might be one of the most cinematic comics I've ever read. Like, if I've ever read something that, like, naturally, just the way it is, fits into a comic that naturally fits as a movie, it's Kaiju Score. Like,
right, dude.
This almost feels like this started out as a movie screenplay, kind of like the that wrestling book that we did a year ago that we actually got the writer on for. His name is now escaping me, but it feels like a script that was adapted into a comic that's now being readapted back into a movie.
Right.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I like, as far as like movie genres and stuff, I like a good heist movie. I love Gone in 60 Seconds. I know that's about like stealing cars. The Ocean's movies, I love those. Like, I think it was last year, the Dave Bautista zombie movie where, almost
Army of the Dead.
A year ago. Yeah, Army of the Dead. Like, I was excited for that because I love a good heist movie and I love like different takes on heists. I love watching movies about like the planning of like big jobs and stuff. That's why like at least the first Ocean's movie I was really into. And that's what this is. This is a take. I was actually like telling my wife about it today when I read it. I was like, I read this book. It's one of like my favorite comics ever. It has all the things in it that I want. It's like nearly perfect in my opinion. And I understand like this is not going to like this is not God Loves Man Kills. I'm not saying it has like a tremendous amount of gravitas. I'm saying like the story was perfect. Like, and I said like the whole thing is they're gonna do a snatch and grab. They're gonna rob this gallery for these $1 million paintings in the middle of a kaiju attack.
Yeah.
And the kaiju attack is the big distraction. It's like, while this kaiju is attacking, they will have the perfect conditions to get into this gallery, steal these paintings, and get out again. Right. And then it's and then there's all this additional tension because one of the people in the group is not who she says she is, and then they have a mob boss enforcer who's fucking with them, and of course everyone's betraying everybody, and the whole thing goes to plaid, and it's the Flash villain, Captain Cold. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw the plan out entirely. I love those movies. I love those books. And so, like, Kaiju Score is just perfect. I loved every page of it.
Well, I'll hop into the synopsis here real quick, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about what we really enjoyed. But here we go. In our first issue, we meet the players, the man with the plan, Marco, who has a reputation for coming up with a great plan, but sometimes missing a detail, causing it to fall apart. Gina, the genius safecracker, who gets killed immediately and is replaced by Michelle, pretending to be Gina. Palmero, the man with the tools to get things done, with the unfortunate disposition of being branded as bad luck on every heist, resulting in something always going wrong. Then there's Pearson, the hired overbearing muscle put in place by the man bankrolling the job, assigned to make sure the heist goes as planned, even if it means threatening to kill the other members. Now the plan, just like Mark said, to steal one of the most valuable curated art collections from a Miami museum during a kaiju landfall. Can they pull it off without falling victim to the destructive force that is Mujara, the kaiju? More importantly, can the thieves coexist long enough to get away with the loot? The greatest, most dangerous heist takes place in Kaiju Score. So this kaiju is going to be making landfall, and of course, it's just going to be nothing but chaos, right? Well, the thing that you learn is that as we're following along with Marco, he's been planning for this all along. He's been trying to figure out, okay, how do kaiju feed? When can it be expected to happen? What happens when a kaiju makes landfall? The book does a great job of kind of letting you know what to expect. But of course, you know something's going to go wrong.
I think the thing that stands out to me is Marco's desperation to try to prove himself. When you're writing a screenplay, the thing they teach you in screenplay class is what makes today different than any other day. This guy's on his ass. Nobody will give him any money. If he doesn't pull this job off, he's done. He's probably going to die. This is the last-ditch effort to pull himself out of the tailspin, Maverick. And so there's that sense of desperation. Everything has to work. And then you have Gina, Michelle, who's taken over the
basically she's impersonating
her. Yeah. And but there's a desperation for her too. This has to be successful or she can't get her team. She can't pay the ransom for her team. And then you have the villain of this thing, which is the enforcer, the babysitter,
Pearson. Yeah.
Who is in no way supportive, is actively working against the team. At the end, stabs Marco. He kills another guy on the team, and he's like, every single babysitter that gets involved in one of these jobs ends up dead, either by accident or because they fucked up and the mob boss kills them. So he's like, I'm just gonna take the money and go. I'm done here. So it has all the great cinematic elements of a well-told story. It has all the dramatic tension that you need to keep it invested. This was a real page turner for me. And again, the job itself was a lot of fun too, because he had to know what the kaiju was, what it was going to do, and then it kind of reminded me, but in a good way, of Godzilla 2014, where Godzilla's barely on screen. Mm-hmm. So the whole book is called Kaiju Score, but it's about this heist. The kaiju is sort of like an antecedent to the story. It's just kind of in the background. The kaiju is essentially a big giant distraction so that they have this window to steal some shit.
Yeah, everybody's got to evacuate. Everybody's got to get out of there, and it's just...
the cameras are off. I'm a thinker, and I like movies with characters who are thinkers and trying to I talk about this with Batman. I don't like punchy ninja Batman like everyone else likes. I like a Batman who has to think through his problems and figure things out and solve mysteries. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that they wrote Marco as this really thoughtful person who's, coming up with ideas for, and trying to work through problems. Like, if this happens and this happens, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and that's how we're going to be successful. And then, when the plan goes off the rails, he has to adapt and change things. And so he's an easy character to identify with. He's an easy character to, on the occasion, you have to cheer for a character who's, stealing things. He's an easy character to want to see be successful. He's not written kind of as a douchebag.
I was pulling for Marco the whole time. I want him to try and succeed. And then the other kaiju shows up. And there's about to be a fight in Miami. And he's like, oh shit, what do we do now? We've still got to try and get this loot out of here. One of the big unexpected things that happens in this book is the other kaiju showing up, and we have basically a kaiju fight when all he was expecting this kaiju to do initially was just go and lay down and go to sleep in Miami and then get up and leave. But no, we have
just fuck off.
Yeah, they just go around it and they be good. Mm-hmm. One of the things I really liked about the first issue was kind of the back matter of the book. After you read the issue, it will then kind of give you an idea of what to do if a kaiju comes ashore. The signs and stuff, know your watches and warnings. If there's a kaiju watch and a kaiju warning.
Right. It's fun. It's kind of the Monsterverse where we've now had so many of these. We've got, this isn't Pacific Rim. Right. Where the monsters have caused the near extinction of the human race. This is more of the Monsterverse, where they've learned to live with the monsters, and there's an entire black market that develops around it. This is just now part of the culture. Mm-hmm. It's like hurricane season in Florida. Here comes the kaiju. Everyone get out. Get out of New Orleans.
That's the way I looked at it. I was like, this is very much like if a hurricane came. What would you do? There's 4 or 5 pages dedicated to this at the end of this first book, which is, talking about some of the myths, what to do, what the differences are, some of the statistics. And it's put together in a way that I usually am not a fan of, a bunch of crap at the end of a book. But this was kind of helpful. And also okay, this puts you in that world. This puts you in okay, what do these people do when this kind of thing happens? Pearson, the enforcer, the muscle. What a dick. Would you agree?
Pearson's a douchebag. If you're looking for a villain that you actively want to see get killed by a kaiju, he's good. He's,
Yeah. He really
I mean,
is.
like, again, he is actively working against the team the entire time and being a douchebag. Like, he's not even hiding it. He's like, he's like constantly provoking Marco. He's like Robert Winfrey, but kind of an asshole. Like, he's just like, everything sucks. Nothing is going to work. This is all bad. I don't want to be here.
Right. He did not want to be there.
Not at all.
Love
you, Robert, by the way. You're not a douchebag.
That is correct. You were not a douchebag, sir. Palmero and his bad luck. This is another character that you're kind of rooting for. This guy who's always had bad luck on the heist, and you're like, okay, can he make it through this without anything going wrong for him? And he's just he's trying to work through that. He just wants one job where it can go okay, and it doesn't. Of course, he ends up becoming a victim to Pearson at one point. Each one of these people, these four people, have these distinct personalities. You wonder how they can work together, because that's, again, an element of the heist film. Get everybody together. The Ocean's 11, the Ocean's 12, the Ocean's 13. Can we get everybody together to work together to achieve one goal? Yeah, the other note that I had here is things go from bad to worse. I mean, it's already worse when you got two kaijus fighting, but when Pearson decides to go off script and do his own thing and goes into business for himself, and he proves he's a murderous scumbag, it just kind of goes south from there.
I also like the fact there's no like really foppish or like there's no annoying characters in this. So even like the one guy that gets killed, who I think they're calling like Rabbit's Foot at one point, like he stands up for himself eventually. Like after a while, he's like, "Stop calling me names. I'm gonna fucking kill you."
Right.
Great. Perfect. That's all I needed out of you. And he ends up getting killed anyway. But like there's always like a Marlon Wayans kind of a character you just want to just want to push into the fiery lava of Mount Doom, because they're just so annoying. Like they're there for comic effect. Like I can see in the movie, so, like Jonah Hill's gonna play that character.
Oh yeah,
and he's gonna be obnoxious about it.
The 4 issues for this series is just perfect. I mean, I'm so glad that they kept it at 4 issues. I didn't think we needed more. I don't think we needed less. I think that was the perfect amount of issues to get.
Oh yeah, no, this was a nice tight script. This had everything we need. Like, obviously, if you do the movie version of this, the actual action sequences will be longer. So, like, think like The Matrix or something. You have that long chase scene on the bridge where there's no dialogue, and that's just a long action sequence. You know what I mean? Or like any like the fight thing. So like the driving around in the ATVs and stuff like that. And they pull the entire bit where they have to adapt and use the cables from the museum to pull the safe to them so that they can crack it because they don't have enough time. The bit at the end where, because the kaiju is going into the sea, it's going to cause a flood, which I thought was brilliant, by the way. Like, when you think about like Pacific Rim or Godzilla, there's never really given a lot of thought to how a large mass like that will affect the environment.
Yeah. Affects the environment around it.
All anyone cares about is watching Godzilla like wreck another animal, wreck another kaiju, or wreck buildings or whatever. Like Godzilla versus Kong was all about just watching the two monsters fight each other. And they did some sort of that Man of Steel-esque type of destruction, but you never really look at like the human cost of these things because no one gives a shit. But I thought that was kind of a brilliant thing to focus on. It's like, if an animal that size suddenly goes into the water, wouldn't it cause like a giant tidal wave?
Right.
Like wow, that's actually really thoughtful and brilliant.
And they're smart. And they're smart enough to take that into account.
I also like the fact that, it wasn't just two mindless beasts. Like, you get to know the kaijus through Marco's like loving description of them. Like he's really studied these things and he has respect for them, which I think is also good. They're not just like, okay, we're going to do this, when these two animals are there and like who cares about them? Like he like has a genuine interest in the one kaiju. Again, 4 issues in a comic, this was perfect. But in the movie, that scene where he's like taking the picture with the thing is going to be longer than just one panel.
Right. You're even invested in the battle of the kaijus.
Right.
The way this is written. Like, you're invested on who's going to win in that, and that doesn't need to happen, but it's there.
They feel like people, Jesse.
Very, very large people.
Yes.
I did want to shout out, like, at one point, Gina, or Michelle, she gets found out because I think Pearson sees that...
her roots. Her roots were showing. Dye 'em black. Black #1.
Did you see that in issue 2 that actually happened? So there's a point in issue 2 where her and what's his face Pearson are going to get into it. He's got a knife up to her face, and he's got like a knife on her hair. What does he say here? You should be nice to me, ball breaker. I got the green light to cut throats if if I even see one hair out of place, and he's got his knife in her hair, and right there you can see the black roots that he's talking about.
Right.
So that happens in the comic. I remember when I read it, I was like, did they actually do something like that? And sure enough, so that was in place. You would have had no idea until he talked about it like an issue or two later, but it was already in place in the panels in the previous issues, which is pretty cool. That's actually giving it some thought. You could have just said that and been like, oh, okay, but they actually show it. So they established that, yeah, okay, she definitely had dyed hair, and you could see it when he was up close. This will be a very good movie if it's done right.
But who do you think we should, like? I'm trying to think of like who's directed some like really good heist movies of late that would be good for this, because you want somebody like that. You want somebody with like, I'm thinking like Guy Ritchie.
Okay.
I think Guy Ritchie knocks this out of the park.
Okay.
So Guy Ritchie, known for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels,
okay.
Snatch, moving down, Revolver, Rock and Rolla, the Sherlock Holmes movies, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., King Arthur, Aladdin, The Gentleman, Wrath of Man.
Wrath of Man was a good movie. I like that.
Yes, that was if you remember, that's one of the few of last year that Robert and I gave like a glowing review to.
Yeah. That was right.
He has a movie that's currently in post-production that was supposed to come out already, but I guess they had to like pull it back for reshoots or whatever. Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre. So like, I don't know what I think he's working on something now. It looks like, and I guess he's got a Hercules. Oh, they tapped him for Hercules, the reboot of the live action adaptation of Hercules for Disney. But yeah, I think Guy Ritchie's the guy.
Okay. Well, here, I'll read you some heist movies, popular heist movies. You tell me if you've seen them, what you thought of them. So we talked about Army of the Dead already, which we
do not need fucking Zack Snyder touching
Zack Snyder with 2.5 hours worth of.
No, just move on. No, I'm as the producer of this movie, as a studio executive, I'm saying no to Zack Snyder. Right now, my guy is Guy Ritchie. You got to pitch me people you got to pitch me, and I'm going to tell you if they're better than Guy Ritchie or not, because right now Guy Ritchie's getting this project.
Okay.
You have to have a director that can handle like big set pieces.
Right, environmental elements.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find something that would do that.
What about Guillermo del Toro?
Okay.
So he did Pacific Rim. So he can handle like big set pieces, monster movies. Stuff.
Right.
But I think he's competent enough to where he can handle the nuance of pulling off like a big heist movie. So still not better than Guy Ritchie. That's still where my head is.
That's where you want to stick.
Yeah, but if I had to pick somebody else, maybe Guillermo.
Okay.
Not Michael Bay.
Yeah, I don't want to. I wouldn't say that either. Gosh darn, man, there isn't really a lot of it's all like simple kind of stuff. Right. Who directed Ant-Man?
Well, that was first Edgar Wright until he got yeeted off the project.
Okay.
And then I think it was like Peyton something or other. Hang on. Peyton Reed, that's what I was thinking of. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, what else has Peyton Reed done?
I'm looking that up right now.
He worked on the Back to the Future show.
On the Back to the Future.
Oh my god. So Peyton Reed has directed the following films, right? He's doing all three. He has done the previous two, and he's doing the next Ant-Man movie. He's also done Yes Men, The Breakup, Down with Love, and Bring It On. But here's what he's worked on in television. Are you ready for this? Back to the Future, The Love Bug, The Weird Al.
Now it says 13 episodes live action sequences. So I wonder if that was him. Basically, I don't know if you remember the live action sequences. It had Doc Brown doing some goofy stuff. So interesting.
Wandering around, spinning in a circle in his fucking lap. He directed 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
The Weird Al Show. He did 13 episodes of The Weird Al Show.
Mr. Show with Bob and David and the Upright Citizens Brigade. I don't want this to be too much of a comedy though.
Right. That's what this would steer towards.
Yeah. No. So far, Guy Ritchie still's getting this.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I'm currently on Rotten Tomatoes looking at like the 88 best heist movies. Okay. Ooh, let's see. Is Brian De Palma still working? He directed one of the Mission Impossible movies.
Ooh.
That was a while ago. I don't even know if he's... Oh, you know who would be good?
He is 81 years old.
He did a couple of the Fast and Furious movies, and he just did Malignant. James Wan. I bet James Wan would actually do well with this. How about F. Gary Gray? He did The Italian Job, and he did a bunch of other stuff.
That seems too kind of Gone in 60 Seconds to me.
So F. Gary Gray has a movie coming out called Lift. Before that was Men in Black International. Before that was The Fate of the Furious, which was the 8th one, from 2017. I want to say that's the one with The Rock. that made like $1 billion. He did Straight Outta Compton, The Sea of Trees, Law Abiding Citizen, Be Cool, A Man Apart, The Italian Job, The Negotiators, Set It Off, and Friday, motherfucker. Oh, I got it.
Tell me.
Based on a movie he's already directed that is his number 18 on the 88 best heist movies of all time. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Refn. Done.
No, you saw Drive and you made a hasty and ignorant decision.
No, I see it in my mind's eye now. It's Kaiju Score, but instead of wherever stupid city this is in, it's in Paris.
Oh, for crying out loud. No. Refn.
All right, we're done with this bit. We got it.
No.
Kaiju Score directed by Refn.
I guess the only other question I really have about this, we both really enjoyed this book. This isn't bloated in any way. This is tight. It gets your point across. You have characters that you can, at least are characters. And it's good that they establish those people in such a short amount of time and make it and keep it that interesting. So kudos. I mean,
yeah.
James Patrick did a fine job of writing a story here. And I think there is a second one out right now. What is the sequel called?
Let me say, while you're looking for this, I mean, you and I did a long stretch of comic book reviews together. We went a couple of years before. I think COVID is what killed it. But, you were done a fairly decent job of rotating your guests, and then I kind of just took over the schedule. And then because I took over the schedule, I just became like the permanent co-host and then I took it over when you had to stop podcasting for a while. Because I wasn't really necessarily selecting good books, I was just selecting stuff that went along with whatever we were talking about that particular week. There was definitely a long stretch of, it's okay. In the future, when you hear us talk about Lieutenants of Metal, that was another one where I was like, yeah, it was fine. I was amused by it. And like we tried to pull some good content out of that, but sometimes like it is what it is, and it's not a 10 or a 1, it's a straight 5. This is the first one in a while where I genuinely was excited to talk about it, had stuff to talk about, and for the length of time that we talked, we actually talked about the book and not like other bullshit.
Right.
I did not go into a tangent about something utterly unrelated.
Stay on target. Stay on target.
I did not start thinking about my dick.
Oh, man. The Kaiju Score Volume 2, titled Steal from the Gods. Yeah, 4 issues. Michelle's back. She has her own crew, and she's making her own rules. Unfortunately, her tendency for getting into hot water still remains, and her involvement in that now infamous job in Florida, known as the Kaiju Score, is haunting her in many different ways. It's about to put her on a collision course with a new job, new characters, and of course, new monsters. The second volume of the critically acclaimed best-selling Kaiju Score, optioned by Sony Pictures, is here. Just like last time, not everyone will get out alive. Oh, well, I guess nice little pitch there. 4 issues. I guess they all dropped. So maybe we'll have to come back to this just to see if they can follow it up. It is the same creative team. James Patrick and Rem Brew are on this one. I'm really curious if they can follow it up well, because this one was like, I feel like, I wonder if James has been sitting on this for a while and just been like, man, I got this great idea, and had all this time to really flesh things out. It hits. A lot of people are really impressed with it. So this book really got a lot of discussion, a lot of word of mouth going around. A lot of people were picking it up, and a lot of people were enjoying it. I'm sure that James had all this time to kind of flesh things out, and then with it skyrocketing in popularity, he was probably pressed to kind of follow it up. With that said, do you have any final thoughts on Kaiju Score?
I loved it. The first time I read it, I think I was telling you, I think I got into a fight with Melissa that night, and
not in a good headspace.
I was not, and so I wasn't really focused on it. And I'm halfway through the book, and I don't know what it is I'm reading anymore, and I'm lost. And I think that's when I was like, and then I think we were supposed to review it, and I'm like, I'm never gonna get this done in time. I don't even know what this is about. This is not going to be a good review. Let's not do this now. So that's why we ended up rescheduling till now. I'm so glad we did, because when I was able to read it, digest it, think about it, and come to the review with stuff to say. It's like I said, I haven't been reading a lot of comic books. It's one of the things I want to get back to. Actually, I said that to Melissa today. I was like, I spent so much time over the past couple of months focused on kind of rebuilding, creating a social life outside of podcasting. that I neglected like everything else that makes me me. And one of those things was I have a love of reading. You know, I used to read novels, science fiction and fantasy. I used to read nonfiction. And then I got married and became stupid and I started reading comics. So, but I was like, for a while there, I was reading a comic a week, and then just everything kind of went to pieces on me. I'll tell you my final word on this. Kaiju Score is so good, it reignited my love of reading comics again, to the point where I want to make sure I keep going back to reading it again, because I've missed feeling like myself and myself read comics, among other things.
Glowing review. Well, I guarantee you.
I was not thinking with my dick on this one.
Oh. I'll have to let James know. I'll probably see him at a convention, I'm sure, around. Listen, I got a buddy of mine, read your book, was not thinking about his dick. Read your book.
Please make sure that's exactly how you tell it to him. So I have a friend. He's always thinking with his dick. Not this time, pal.
Nope. So the letterer on this book is Dave Sharp, okay? Mm-hmm. His bio reads, Dave grew up a huge metalhead. Now, his fucking picture is him with a guitar. Dave grew up a huge metalhead, living on Long Island, New York.
Oh, my home place, Strong Island.
All right. While spending summers in Tallahassee, Florida, after reading Micronauts and many other comics, Dave knew he had to have a career in the business. Somebody call Chris Bailey.
Right,
no shit. Dave knew he had to have a career in the business. Upon graduating from the Joe Kubert School in 1990, he went on to work at Marvel Comics as an in-house letterer, eventually running the lettering department in the late 90s and early 2000s. Over the years, Dave has lettered hundreds of comics such as Spider-Girl, Exiles, She-Hulk, and the Defenders for Marvel, and Green Lantern, Harley Quinn, Sinestro, and Batgirl for DC Comics. Dave now works on both X-O Manowar and Faith for Valiant Comics, in addition to his lettering duties on several Aftershock titles. Dave also plays bass and is way more approachable than he looks.
Right.
Anyway, that's pretty neat. Dave Sharp, he's a big metalhead. We'll have to hit him up on @DaveL_Sharp on Twitter and say, hey bro. All right. Well, hey, I had a good time. You had a good time. This has been Kaiju Score, 4-issue series coming out of Aftershock Comics. We'll be coming back together here pretty soon. Mark and I are going to be discussing our thoughts on the new Lieutenants of Metal, keeping with that metal theme there. So check us out there. That'll be happening at some point here in the future for the Source Material Comics podcast. So for Mark Radulich, I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll be talking to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to give that Radulich in Broadcasting Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts we have to offer. We are at home on Spreaker, but you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and recently we have hit the air on Spotify. Find your favorite podcast platform and type in RADULICH to subscribe for some great content. If you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word. And as always, we appreciate any feedback and look forward to entertaining you again soon.